Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Saturday, December the 2nd, 2023, our second day in the month of December. Continuing with the daily lectionary as found in our hymnal, the ELW, the Evangelical Lutheran Worship. The reading for today is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, the 24th chapter. As Jesus came out of the temple and was going away, his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. And then he asked them, "You see all these, do you not? Truly I tell you, not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." And when he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered them, "Beware that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Messiah,' and they will lead many astray. And you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars, and see that you're not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All this is but the beginning of the birth pangs." You're probably well aware of the fact that people are always wondering about the end and looking in Scripture and looking for passages, sometimes obscure passages, to see if they could figure out when it's going to be. And repeatedly, Jesus says, you're not going to know. Well, in the 19th century, there was a real wave of enthusiasm for prophecies concerning the actual date for the second coming. One such prophecy came from a man by the name of William Miller. And after studying Daniel 8, he predicted that Christ would return on March 21st, 1842, but then it didn't happen, so he revised the date to April 3rd, 1843. In fact, 3,500 of his followers jammed the Boston Advent Temple, only to be disappointed. And you might have thought that it would have died at that point, the movement, but it didn't. It continued to grow. He decided to recalculate the date for the second coming, soon publicized a new date, April 18th, 1844. When the Messiah did not show up on that date, there was again frustration, and some followers left the ranks of his movement. Undeterred, he came up with a third date, April 22nd, 1844. And surprisingly, this third date rallied his followers. They began to spread the news of this new date of the second coming with an enthusiasm that had not been seen before. Churches that did not accept this message were denounced as agents of Babylon and the devil. And despite opposition from established mainline religious groups, thousands of people, including many clergy even, began to prepare. One account notes that fields were left unharvested, shops were closed, people quit their jobs, paid their debts, freely gave away their possessions with no thought of repayment. Huge press runs of publications warned the public that the time is short. Prepare to meet thy God, the Lord is coming. Miller himself began peddling white ascension robes to the faithful, many of whom waited for the miraculous event in freshly dug graves. But of course, as we all know, the second coming did not occur. A few weeks later, after this great disappointment, he wrote, "Although surrounded by enemies and scoffers, my mind is perfectly calm. My hope in the coming Christ is sure as ever. I have fixed in my mind upon another time, and here I mean to stand until God gives me more light." And that is today. Today. Until he comes and I see him, my soul yearns for him. It didn't happen. And in that respect, it has that date of 1844 is in common with 1248, 1306, 1689, 1792, 1836, the aforementioned 1844, 1914, 1936, 1960, 1974, 1981, 1988, 1989, 1992, 1994, 2011. All of these years represent times in which people predicted that the second coming of Christ would occur. But no one, not even Jesus, knows the exact time of his coming. A little bit later in Matthew 24, Jesus said this, "But about that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels of heaven nor the Son," meaning Jesus himself, "but only the Father." What we do know is that Christ's coming will be unexpected and dramatic. 2 Peter 3 verse 10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night." I'm reminded here of something that Winston Churchill once said, the great prime minister during the Second World War. The war had started in 1939. There was just one defeat after another. The British had to withdraw from Europe at Dunkirk. There was the Blitz and the bombings of England, and it seemed like an invasion of the British Isles at any point was a possibility, although it never happened. Then the war was raging then also because Europe kind of fell, everything but Great Britain. The war raged in North Africa, and finally in November of 1942, there was a victory over the Germans in North Africa. And so Churchill was able to report to the British people and to the, I think it was the House of Commons, that they had won that victory. And, this was a first. And so, what's this? Is this the end? Is this the beginning? And this is what he said famously. He said, now this is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. It's not the end. It's not the beginning of the end. Perhaps it's the end of the beginning. Jesus' words were something like that too. All of this is to say we don't know. We don't know when it's going to happen. As we enter the season of Advent beginning tomorrow, the anticipation is approaching, 2,000 years that we're awaiting for his return. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen another 1,000 years. It's not the end. We can't predict that. But, maybe it's the end of the beginning. And now we wait in faith for that end that has been promised to us to finally arrive. And with that, we'll end this week of Daily Devotions. Hope you can be with us the first Sunday in Advent tomorrow morning. Our services, of course, at 9:30 and 11, live streamed. And also hope you can come in person if you're able to, or watch either or both of those services during the week on our YouTube channel. And as far as Daily Devotions, I'll be back with you, God willing, again next week on Tuesday. Until then, take care. Bye.